Hello, my name is Lisa Chapman, and I'm the founder and director of Tango SeaWeed, a company that is cultivating seaweeds or ocean vegetables on the west coast of Norway. I would like to tell you a little bit about our journey with seaweeds towards hopefully a successful business and healthy planet, and what role seaweeds can play in the future of ocean food. Our background, as many others, is that, of course, the world's population is growing and pressure on scarce resources is mounting. And this is one reason why we need to, among other things, rethink also food production and design complete resource cycles in this context. And the wonderful thing is that seaweeds can really help us to meet many of the major challenges facing the world today, including in the context of food production. But let me tell you a little bit about what seaweeds really are. They don't deserve the name weed, in my opinion. Another term is marine macroalgae, but the important thing here is that they function as ocean plants in shallow coastal ecosystems naturally. Globally, there are about 10,000 species, and that's just one aspect of the large diversity and variety we are speaking of when we're talking about ocean vegetables. In Norway, we have about 450 species, and we're just starting to begin and cultivate a number of these in seaweed farms. So we're really talking about a new type of aquaculture, an emerging industry or branch sector in Norway. In Asia, this has been done for many, many years. And it's a biological marine resource, which is fundamentally very suitable for food or other aspects of human consumption. So also nutraceuticals or bioactives or pharmaceuticals. And in addition to that, there are almost unlimited number of other applications, such as animal feed, fertilizer, cosmetics, bioplastics is very relevant, and bioenergy. So seaweeds are a raw material and a resource that has been largely undervalued and underestimated in the Western world, at least. In Asia, there's been a tradition for its use in many, many centuries. In addition, seaweed aquaculture is climate and environmentally positive, not just sustainable. This is because we're talking then about functional plants in the ocean, which recycle nutrients. There is often an excess of which in some fjord ecosystems. And also, or we could say, we are recycling nutrients that otherwise we would lose in the vast ocean waters. So it's a way of recovering an important resource. They also take up carbon like other plants and convert it to oxygen. And for this type of aquaculture, we need no fresh water, or we don't take up arable land. And in addition to that, again, seaweeds, just a seaweed farm existing in the ocean, can provide ecosystem services and be an important contribution to a healthy ecosystem in the oceans. As food, seaweeds are healthy, tasty, and varied. And of course, this is very much a generalization because, again, we're talking about a very large diversity of species that differ from each other. And not all of these points here are equally relevant for each species at each time of its life. But in general, this is just a short list of which highlights we meet when we use seaweeds as food. So in terms of minerals, we have iodine, magnesium, potassium, calcium, and sodium. Seaweeds represent a healthy salt replacement because the salts, the very salty seaweeds, are largely built on a more healthy type of mineral salt than our regular table salt. They contain vitamins. In terms of lipids, they consist of a very good ratio between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. They're rich in fibers and have other properties like antioxidants. They can function as probiotics, have many antibacterial effects, and the list could be continued much further. What really fascinates me, and this is in an answer in contrast to that we are often asked in the sector of seaweed farming, which is a young and new sector in Norway, we're often asked if this industry can be as large as salmon aquaculture. And in my opinion, that is really, that's not to the point. The point is that we are dealing with something very different, which has a much larger potential of both diversification and diversity in general than the aquaculture of just salmon. What we're really talking about, I think, is the equivalent of all cultivation of plants on land in the ocean. So on land, if you think about the wide spectrum of everything from potatoes to grains to corn to all varieties of fruit and all types of vegetables, then that is what we can expect of and could develop in a similar way in the ocean. And just to give you example, if you take just one plant that is a staple food on land, potato, you have a large variety of food and drink products from potatoes. And we use potatoes in very, very many different contexts and have very many varieties in addition. We already have a similar situation for a staple seaweed, if you like, which is the sugar kelp. And here we already have everything from sea vegetable uses or salads, flavor ingredients, nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals and supplements, pestos are made from them and snacks, and even wine or sherry. So that's just one seaweed type with many food product applications. And if you then imagine the whole variety of seaweeds that we have not even started to farm yet, and the potential of food products from all these species, the potential diversity in application is huge. But it's a long way to go, and like many others in Norway, or not so many actually yet, we are some of the early pioneers of seaweed farming. And in Tango Seaweed, we really want to step up to the challenge of establishing standards for seaweed farming in this new sector, which are according to nature's principles. And nature's principles are all about circularity. Nature has circularity by design, which means there's no waste in nature, only food, only resources. So we see our task of designing this new type of aquaculture in a way that thinks like nature, that knows only food and no waste. And seaweeds fundamentally are a very good way of thinking towards this principle. Another way of putting it is that we want to go beyond sustainability with this type of aquaculture. And in addition to thinking like, how can we do things less bad? How can we reduce our ecological footprint? And for example, use less energy in our production or use less fresh water, less resources and so on. We want to go about how can we come to positive value creation through increasing a positive footprint. And this is again what seaweeds can do because, for example, they can recycle nutrients from seawater that would otherwise be lost. They can represent an ecosystem, a life arena for many other species in a seaweed farm. And there are many other ways we can think in this way with seaweed farming. But we need to do it systematically and from the start. So in order to produce healthy food for healthy people and a healthy planet with seaweed farming, we have a number of challenges, very many actually, because we are just at the beginning. And some of the big themes in this context are in the actual cultivation and harvesting. We need to understand the biology and ecology, and that's a big field. It's not just about finding good technological solutions, although we need those also for improved efficiency and upscaling eventually. But most of what we're doing and what we don't understand yet is about biology and ecology in large ocean ecosystems. So we want to learn how to build a regenerative seaweed farm that functions at a circularity principles and possibly imply methods like integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, where we grow different species together, and eventually can think about the role of scale and go from pilot and small scales to larger scales in a safe way. We want to imply all the concepts of a green value chain, and we use the cradle-to-cradle design for that circularity principle. And this concerns very many aspects like energy use, rest raw material, the packaging, storage, logistics, and the transparency in our processes. And finally, in order to create values and value, we can employ a system for evaluating ecosystem services in addition to producing products and raw material. And we want to take into account things like immaterial ownership and community values. So it's about many types of values in addition to traditional value creation. And although we are a very strong and engaged team, albeit still very small, need partners and supports and network, often in forms that are unpredictable and very surprising and positive in many ways. And so we continue to develop with our partners and with our network. And if you are interested in talking to us further, if you're interested in tasting seaweed or using it in maybe your production, or if you want to work together or even discuss the further implementations of seaweed in a larger context of ocean development and protection, then please contact us. And you find our website and contact points here. Or actually it's not visible so good, but you find our website if you Google Tango Seaweed. So I hope to hear from you and talk further on a fascinating subject. Thank you.
Herre kaptein, nå er jeg snart klar.
Hallo, Hortenmare. Julia Saska here.
Se hvor delikat.
Ja, så det var godt, Victor?
Ja.
Ok.
Excellent.
Hei, jeg heter Kim Kolstad og jobber på Fiskehallen i Oslo. I dag har jeg lyst til å snakke om sjømat og hvordan finne veien fra havet og frem til tallerkenen din. Men først, hva er Fiskehallen? Fiskehallen, eller Oslo Fiskehall som det strengt tatt heter, ble åpnet i 1934 av kong Håkon den 7., ingen ringere, og er Norges største fiskemarked. Akkurat nå står jeg oppe på taket av Fiskehallen. Rett under meg finnes det diverse firmaer, blant annet firmaet jeg representerer, Vippetangen, Fisk og Kolonial, som til sammen selger, kjøper og viderebehandler tonnevis med fersk fisk og skalldyr hver eneste dag. Dette fantastiske fiskemarkedet ligger på Vippetangen, midt i Oslo sentrum. Her ser du litt av utsikten. Og fordi kontoret mitt ligger rett her nede, ut mot fortauet, er det kanskje ikke så rart at en del Oslo-borgere stikker hodet sitt inn døra med og spør om det er mulig å kjøpe fisk på Fiskehallen. Det som er litt dumt da, er at jeg må si nei, det er det ikke. Ikke for deg. Og det er jo mange som synes at det er litt rart, at det ligger et stort fiskemarked midt i Oslo, men at det ikke går an å kjøpe fisk der. Men det fordi fiskehold et såkalt angromarked, der man må handle i store kvanta, typisk hundrevis eller tusenvis av kilo, og derfor det kun bedrifter som handler her. Så sånn systemet fungerer nå at fisken og all den andre sjømaten kommer inn til fiskehallen. Så blir den hentet av biler, og så blir den kjørt ut i butikkene, og så blir den lagt i en butikkhylle, og så ligger den der og venter og blir litt dårligere hver dag til noen kjøper den, eller ikke kjøper den. For sjømat har ikke så veldig lang holdbarhet, så hvis ingen kjøper den innen rimelig tid, blir den dårlig, og så kastes den. Så i de årene jeg har jobbet her på fiskehallen og etter hvert begynt å skjønne hvordan systemet fungerer, har jeg stadig oftere stilt meg selv spørsmålet: må virkelig veien fra fiskehallen til din tallerken være så lang? Eller finnes det en smartere måte å gjøre dette på? Og det tror jeg faktisk at det gjør. Det nemlig ikke noe lov som sier at privatpersoner ikke kan handle på fiskehallen. Det handler kun om kvanta. Jeg sitter hver dag og snakker med fiskemottak over hele norskekysten og får vite hva som dagens fangst. Hva om jeg kunne gi deg beskjed om hva som kommet opp av havet i dag? Hadde du da vært interessert i å komme og hente det med en gang du kommer inn her på fiskehallen? Og jeg klar over at du sannsynligvis ikke trenger 100 kilo fisk, men si at jeg gir beskjed til deg da, og 1000 andre privatpersoner, og så bestiller kanskje 200 av dere 1 kilo filet hver. Da blir det plutselig 200 kilo. Da kan jeg ringe fiskemottaket og bestille 200 kilo fersk, nytrukket fisk, få den filetert her på fiskehallen, og så kan du og alle de andre komme og hente det dere har bestilt. Da fiskemottaket happy, fordi de får solgt et volum de interessert i. Du happy, fordi du får mye ferskere sjømat. Og naturen happy, fordi maten blir spist av noen som vet at de vil ha den, i stedet for at den ligger i en hylle og venter på å kanskje bli spist, eller kanskje kastet. Så, det som skjer nå at jeg har lagt ut et skjema på vipfisk.no/Oslos ferskeste, der du og 1000 andre kan melde dere på og si «Ja, dette vil jeg være med på!» Og mitt løfte til deg at når jeg når 1001 påmeldte, ringer jeg fiskemottaket, sjekker hva som dagens fangst, og sender den beskjeden videre til deg med en link, der du kan gå inn og bestille den fisken du vil ha, og komme og hente den her hos meg. Så, for å oppsummere, hvis du bor i Oslo og har lyst til å være med å revolusjonere matbransjen, gå inn på vipfisk.no/Oslos ferskeste og meld deg på, og bruk gjerne kommentarfeltet til å komme med spørsmål, forslag eller andre innspill. Så da prates vi. Ha det!
Urchinomics is about turning an environmental challenge into an economic, ecologic, and social opportunity. Sea urchins are quite amazing seafood products because they're essentially a flavor bomb. Due to an unfortunate combination of overfishing of predatory species, climate change, and pollution, we humans have created the perfect conditions for sea urchins to multiply and reproduce unhindered and overgraze and completely destroy entire kelp ecosystems. Now the problem with this is that kelp is essentially the nursery for our marine ecosystem. So that means that without kelp you don't have fish. Without kelp you don't have crustaceans or invertebrates. You essentially lose your entire marine resource. The problem with urchins that have occupied entire kelp forests and grazed it down to nothing is that they starve and they become empty. So there's nothing inside them. Fishers that are catching urchins have no interest in catching them because they have no economic value. So suddenly, an urchin barren can persist for decades or even centuries, preventing any type of primary production from ever happening. What we do is we take the empty sea urchins that are occupying the ocean floor and we rehome them into our land-based ranching systems. We then feed them between 5 to 10 weeks, and we turn these empty, destructive sea urchins into commercially valuable seafood. By creating an economic incentive for the fishers, we can get these urchins out of the water and allow the oceans to heal itself. The kelp spores that are floating in the water column will settle quickly onto the ground and will turn back into a kelp forest within as quickly as 3 months. And it brings the ocean back to life again.
In the clear Arctic waters of the Norwegian Sea lies one of the largest renewable and harvestable marine resources in the world. Calanus finmarchicus is an herbivorous zooplankton with a 1-year lifespan. In the North Atlantic, the biomass of this copepod is larger than all the other harvestable species collected. An abundant source of energy and nutrients, the Calanus finmarchicus serves as a premium raw material. We are pioneers in the harvesting and utilization of this resource. Our patented technology is developed in collaboration with research institutes and the authorities in Norway. Our technology ensures that we harvest in an ecologically responsible and sustainable way. To best preserve the nutrients for future manufacturing, the copepods are frozen on board within minutes of being harvested, before arriving at the largest fishing port in Norway, Tromsø. The Calanus finmarchicus is the only available marine source of high-potency wax ester omega-3 fatty acids and is a superior source of functional amino acids and proteins. These acids equate to nutrient-rich ingredients with functional properties, in particular as marine fish and shrimp feed, a novel human dietary supplement with potent health-promoting benefits, and with our leading research and development strategies, there are many more to be discovered. Calanus, sustainably harvesting nature's most concentrated form of energy.